Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Godcraft 5 on today's date, May the 4th, 2020. I would like to say the things I'm talking about, I'm not supposed to be scaring you necessarily, but there are some scary things in the Bible. I just want to convince a lot of people that this book is transcribable throughout the ages, and we're living in, I believe we're living in one of those ages at the moment. I'm just trying to give you pointers or indicators for where you can look and look around us to see that those things are coming about at the moment. So it speaks about going through birth pains before Jesus returns. That's what we're talking about. A period of time. That's what the apocalypse is. It means it's from a Greek word. It just means to reveal. I think it was something to do with when the bride revealed her veil from what was underneath the veil. So it's the pulling away of the veil, removing what was hidden, that kind of stuff. So rather than what everyone thinks apocalypse means. Okay, let's get that straight. So if I can just read from this version of the Bible, which is the New King James Version. These are Jesus' words. He says, "For many shall come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and shall deceive many. And you will hear of wars and rumours of wars. See that you are not troubled, for all of these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom will rise against kingdom. There shall be famines and pestilences, and earthquakes in diverse places." I just want to stop there and talk about the large amount of earthquakes in diverse places, and just pick up on that. So the earthquake, I believe, that started the tsunami in Japan in 2011 was from the ocean, the middle of the ocean. That's a diverse place, not what we'd be used to. Scientists have recently talked about spotting earthquakes happening on Mars and other planets. That would class as a diverse place. Even here in the UK, we've had a couple of minor ones. We're not used to them here. I think it was 5 o'clock in the morning before anyone noticed it had happened, or something like that. Only a 5 on something like that on the Richter scale. So that was from Signs of the End, from Matthew 24. It also says there'll be new creatures on the earth in those times. Well, less than a couple of weeks ago, I know in one of the newspapers, I haven't got the article on me, but you can probably Google it. They've just discovered densely packed communities 100 meters under the ocean of new creatures they haven't identified before, so that would come under new creatures. Signs in the heavens. Comet Atlas has recently been about. If for those that are into astrology and astronomy, excuse me, half the size of our sun this thing is, and over a period of not much time at all, it increased in brightness many times. That's pretty much flaring up, the sounds of it. Lots of meteor activity anyway. That's a yearly thing at the end of April this year. I can't remember what the meteor shower was called, but it comes around every so often. But beginning of May, we've had a couple of large lumps come past us. Scientists have described it as a skimming past. This particular thing was 5 times the size of the Burj Khalifa, which is the world's biggest building. 2 to 4 kilometers in diameter. Lump of rock skimmed past us 29th of April, I believe, this year. So that kind of activity seems to be getting more frequent. Sign in the heaven. Krakatoa, she's been in the news again recently, just come out of, I think it was Good Friday. Basically, if you don't know about Krakatoa, it was responsible for the biggest bang the world had ever known in the last couple of 100 years or something, when it erupted last time. I think it was late 1800s. I'll check that out for a later program. So anyway, it threw up a 9-mile high ash cloud. Now, if you're not into following God's calendar and such things so far, the things of God tend to happen around his calendar. So if it's the calendar I'm talking about is the Jewish calendar, when they have the proper dates that can be traced back to when God first set things up, and it was around the moon cycles rather than the calendar we have now. But anyway, a little bit of interpretation there. But basically, we've got, just came out of Easter, I think it was this year, Easter, and this ash cloud was in the papers day after Easter, I believe. So if you know anything about it, this is a sign. It's ash coming up to Lent. You have Ash Wednesday. Signs in the heavens. Elusive black hole found. Scientists have they know about the big one, the supermassive one, and there's a smaller one on the other end of the scale apparently. So they've just found an elusive one that they haven't. They've always known about, but haven't had it proven before. So it just so happens this is Hubble happened to be looking in the right part of the sky, and they witnessed it. They witnessed it gobbling up a star, I believe, something like that. It's smaller and more difficult to find, they said. Hubble just happened to be pointing in the right direction. So that's going to be a sign. I'm going to read from you now from the Apocalypse of Isaiah. And this is chapter 24. Now, a lot of this hasn't happened yet, and let's hope that it doesn't happen, but there's a bit I want to point out. So it says, a remnant saved. Lo, the Lord empties the land and lays it waste. He turns it upside down and scatters its inhabitants, layman and priest alike, servant and master, the maid and her mistress, the buyer as the seller, the lender as the borrower, the creditor as the debtor. Let me pause there and say, are we starting to see something like this happen, brought on by the virus? Let's hope not yet, but here we go. The earth is utterly laid waste, utterly stripped, for the Lord has decreed this thing. And it goes on about a bit of doom and gloom, but the bit I want to get to is the earth is polluted because of its inhabitants. And stop there to say something I didn't know till recently. Everyone knows about the carbon footprint. Have you heard of the plastic footprint? This is far more interesting. So I believe the West exports something like 90, if you can visualize this in your head, 90 football fields worth of plastic waste to the third world countries a day. I'll repeat that, that's a day. And my researchers tell me that 60% of it they can't deal with and they burn. This is our water bottles, blister packs, that kind of stuff. And it's clogging up their rivers, their local environment. They can't deal with it, the sound of it. This is the West not being responsible. Whilst not being a tree hugger particularly, that's quite shocking. Everyone blurts on about the carbon footprint, but I think Delhi, India, them kind of places, they're taking them off our hands. So I just digressed there into a environmental thing, but it does say in the word, Uh, basically, we're at a serious moment in history. People should be waking up now. Sign in the heaven, another sign in the heavens. This is another relatively new scientific discovery, I think. I haven't got the newspaper clip, but the corona around the sun, interesting. I don't know if there's a link there. That can be done by cleverer people than me. So the corona around the sun, that's the outside bit if you don't know, it's just been discovered to be 300 times hotter than the centre of the sun. Quite how they work that out is beyond me. However, you have Google, so there you go. And I just find the timing very interesting as we're all dealing with the coronavirus at the moment. It did go on to say scientists don't know why that's the case. Just on a positive note, God does not want any of us to miss him. We still have a choice. It's always our choice though. It's always our choice. He's given us free will. Back to Revelation, the last book of the Bible. It talks about vials and trumpets and things of this nature. Interestingly enough, one of the earthquakes that happened recently has just caused a statue of golden angel. Let me get this right. Earthquake in Utah. There's an angel monument there. I think the angel's called Moronis. It had a golden trumpet in its hand, and it fell out. The earthquake caused it to fall out of its right hand. There we go. That was in the news recently as well. So I intend to demonstrate the credibility of a lot of what's in the book, pretty much, rather than people think it's all myth. So I'll try and go point by point, demonstrating the stuff that's around us now, and trying to relate it to what it's actually talking about. I nearly didn't put this bit in, but in the immortal words of George Michael, from his song "Praying for Time," maybe you should all look at that again. They might be prophetic words. Bless him. We're all in the middle of the virus. It's how much it will turn our way of life upside down is, well, that's in a lot of people's hands. But let's all remember, God lives in the realms of the supernatural. Now, I can say this, well, all Christians know this really, but I can say this on the back of scientists now in mainstream science. They're now starting to talk about the possibility of there really being other dimensions. I just don't think they can measure it properly yet. But you know, the clever people and that's the direction of movement, if you like. So that would make this, as science is progressing, that would make this more real rather than less. So, stay safe among the virus, and until next time, God bless you all.